So that's kind of where it was birthed that day in Toowoomba, where kind of then wanted to take a business that everybody requires, whether it be electricity or whether it be internet, and use it to provide that as what I call competitive advantage and sustainable competitive advantage. So, we use that and say to our customers, well, you can buy your internet off lots of different providers in the market. But if you come through us, then we will use part of our proceeds or part of the proceeds of your connection, whether it be phone or internet, to actually connect you to a charity that you're involved in.
Welcome to Justice Matters, the podcast inspiring a world where everyone belongs. I'm your host, Tim Buxton. Well, Graeme, thanks for coming down all the way from the sunny coast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you in the studio. Now,
it's a great setup you've got here. Love what you guys are doing.
Yeah, and we managed to sneak in a little pre-podcast recording show. The Super Bowl just finished. And,
I managed to stop crying just before we walked in the door here after Brady just ripped apart my team. But anyway, let's not talk about it.
Yeah, you've got your Mahomes jersey on.
Yeah, but we're looking forward to MLB now. We're ready to go for a Yankees season.
Now, if the Graeme is a great mate, I've known him for quite a long time now, and we have this sporting rivalry. I've chosen, as
just teams that suck in general.
Well, let me just say my loyalty runs deep in my blood. Having married a New Yorker, I chose the Mets, the Jets, and the Nets. Now, one of those teams actually doing pretty good, the Brooklyn Nets now.
Yeah, yep.
But Graeme certainly sends me text messages quite periodically when the Mets or the Jets perform miserably, or his Yankees and Chiefs
do quite well. The Yankees,
well. Yeah. Well, look, mate, you didn't take any risks choosing the Yankees or the Chiefs during their prime. So
not only that, but the Brisbane Heat actually lost last week as well. So it just hasn't been a great week.
I don't know if we're going to be able to make it
in the life of Graeme. Yeah, it's been quite hard.
This?
Yeah, we'll see how we go.
Okay, well,
have you got tissues in here somewhere?
We might need to go get some tissues. But look, it's so good to have you in the studio, and it's great to be talking about something I know that you're passionate about. This kind of idea of being able to use your business, your work, to make an impact in the world, particularly Freedom Broadband.
Yep.
And I'm excited because Freedom Broadband has partnered with this podcast, Justice Matters, to be able to help us to keep producing the show and to make sure we get to continue to share these conversations and inspire people that they can make a difference in this world. So thank you personally, Graeme.
No, it's great. I love what you guys are doing. So, yeah, happy to partner with you guys.
Yeah. Look, right off the get-go, it'd be great to talk a bit about Freedom Broadband, their model, because I think there'll be a lot of people that are really interested in, how they can, whether they've already got a business going already and look at kind of pivoting it in a way that it can be, socially responsible as a business. There's a lot of people out there. A generation want to be conscious consumers. They want to make sure that when they purchase a product or when they purchase a service, that down the line there's no exploitation, but in fact it can actually have a positive impact every step of the way. And you guys you've kind of set out on the path and are doing just that. So, why don't you kind of kick things off by just kind of introducing what is Freedom Broadband, how is it a profit for purpose business, and let our audiences in on what you've been up to.
Sure. Well, I don't think you can actually tell the Freedom story without sort of talking a little bit about my time with You Belong.
Yeah.
But effectively, you'll remember a trip that we took to Toowoomba, and we sat in the bakery there and talked about, okay, how are we going to fund this vision? We had this great great vision of what we wanted to do there. And I think at the time we were talking about a coffee shop.
Yeah.
And we kind of started to dream a little bit and think, wouldn't it be great to get, some of the Yazidis in and run a cafe and create meaningful employment and all these cool things and use that as well to also fund the vision of what's going on with You Belong. But then we kind of thought, well, hang on a minute. You Belong exists to kind of fulfill its mission, and all of a sudden we're going to throw business into that.
Yeah.
That's not going to work. So, naturally being entrepreneurial at heart, I've had businesses in the past, I was kind of thinking, all right, there's got to be an answer to this. And, whether it is, something inside You Belong, or whether we actually go, okay, well, maybe we try and run businesses outside to actually, create funds for charities. So that's kind of where it was birthed that day in Toowoomba, where, kind of then wanted to take a business that everybody requires, whether it be electricity or whether it be internet, and use it to provide that as what I call competitive advantage and sustainable competitive advantage. So, we use that and say to our customers, well, you can buy your internet off lots of different providers in the market. But if you come through us, then we will use part of our proceeds or part of the proceeds of your connection, whether it be phone or internet, to actually connect you to a charity that you're involved in. And that's probably one of the key things for us. I mean, you find lots of businesses out there that support specific charities.
Yeah.
So they might say, okay, we send part of our money every year off to, big charity, national charity like Coles. Anytime you go to Coles, they're asking you, do you want to round it up for whatever the charity of the day is.
Yes.
At the checkout, where the heart behind what I want to do is give charities like You Belong, at the time, the ability to be able to say, okay, we've got lots of supporters. A lot of them don't have $10 or $15 a month to actually spare, but they're all paying for internet, or they're all paying for a phone service anyway. So these people can actually become financial contributors towards You Belong.
Yeah. And
not only that, I think the reason why we actually chose telco in this utility space is, I'm an IT guy, and you can probably tell because I'm such an introvert and nervous as hell sitting on this side of the table here. But, it's something that, I've been gifted with. I can do computers and I can do telecommunications. So that's kind of where it all started really at the end of the day, is we said, okay, well, if you look at all the gifts we've got and I guess the heart behind it and go, okay, well, this is where we're going. So we started this in mid-2019. So now we're coming up around 200 customers and sending money out to different charities all over the place. And, it's just really, really cool to sort of be responsible and looking after something that, that's really close to my heart and obviously the heart of my family as well.
Yeah. Oh, man. I love that idea of using what's in your hand and saying, well, look, this is what I'm good at. This is what I've got experience at. Let's make this into something that does have that kind of social impact. And the cool thing you kind of brought up that kind of stood out to me was it's this idea of giving the customer the choice as to where that funding essentially can go as well, like a passion that's close to their heart, not just saying this is what, Freedom Broadband supports and you have to support this one cause. Whereas there's, what I understand, there's several, as long as they're a charity that is registered and got all the DGR kind of processes in place, so they're a reputable organisation, and by and large, basically, that people can support a cause that they're passionate about. And I think that's really close to people's heart too, so that's fantastic.
Yeah, certainly I didn't want, Freedom Broadband just to be an extension of my value system, if that makes sense. I wanted to equip everyone to support a charity that they like, not just the charities that are, I guess, big in the Campbell family, and certainly, You Belong's our number one pick these days. But, it's for me, it was a case of, well, I don't want to get involved in the political arguments and all that kind of stuff. I want to build a tool that people can use to actually do good. Yeah. Yeah.
And, and that is, I think, totally really important too. People really want to, there's so many important causes, and any charity like mine would say ours is the most important. But, it's important to get behind local sporting clubs, because local sporting clubs as non-profit charities create inclusion for poor marginalised people, and the same with education or arts or wildlife. There's just so many ways that you can support a cause that, at the end of the day, sometimes it's hard to say which one is more important and which one's needed the most. So, I love that.
we all want to live in as a part of a great community, right? And I think, certainly for my kids, I want to model that. Hey, if you want to live as part of a great community, you've got to get involved and you've got to actually be an active participant.
Contributor.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a bit about the life of Graeme over the last year or so.
And tell me about your family. You've got 3 lovely kids who I
coach Tim over here.
Got the chance to coach Lucas soccer along with my boy Charlie when we spent that year up on the sunny coast.
I've got to tell you though, I think we're lucky we had Eliana on our team. With
all
the boys,
we did have
she was the
Eliana
only
too.
one really to get the goals in each time.
Mate,
give us a chance
and bash up the other dudes too. She definitely put an elbow in every now and there.
The star of the team.
Yeah, no, that was definitely fun. I'd love to talk a bit about those formative days for you belong to when we were fortunate enough to have you, giving your time and effort. I know you were studying your Masters of Business at the time. Yep. You were working a full-time job and then obviously had this entrepreneurial streak in you trying to figure out how you could launch out your own
stage of freedom. Yep.
Yeah, so you were juggling a lot and gave a lot of your time to help our charity get off the ground. So firsthand, I guess, the challenges that charities do face, trying to get momentum. You're competing against, not competing, but you're trying to kind of make your case and as like, hey, look, we need support in the community, and there's a lot of other great organisations that are doing a lot of work, but it's really hard to get runs on the board. It's hard to get some of the business administrative stuff on board when you're only working with volunteers and nobody really is able to kind of dedicate full-time energies to that. When you reflect back on those early days, what kind of comes to mind for you?
I think the biggest realisation that I had, we talk about, particularly strong in the media at the moment around charities, is this concept called administrative charges, and we, particularly after last year's bushfires and all that kind of stuff, right? The nation, Australians just always show up to give, right? It's just, it's an insane thing every time there's a natural disaster. All you have to do is remember back to the big tsunamis, everyone just gave, and Thailand and, and then all the reports came out, which, some of these charities perhaps didn't do the right thing. And hit it all under this administrative costs. And now, you get a grant as a charity, and they go, well, you've got to use it for operational stuff. You can't use it for administrative costs. And I obviously came in with the same sort of attitude to you belong, going, okay, well, we really want to keep these administrative costs down. But then, we had to apply to the ACNC for this, and then the tax office for something else, and then all of a sudden we had to go to the Queensland government to get a registration to be able to raise money, and I was like, far out, these things actually take quite a lot of work. So I think for me, looking back on that, I now have a bit more of an appreciation as to what actually these administrative costs might actually be. It takes a lot to run a charity, and I think that was probably the biggest thing. I was there about a year while you were overseas, and just going through that whole process of registering as a charity, getting that not-for-profit status with the ATO so that we weren't going to pay tax, and then registering for the tax deductibility so that people could actually give a tax-deductible donation to You Belong. That took quite a bit of effort and a bit of backwards and forwards, and perhaps a few favours from a few people here and there. I think if I look back over my time, from a business perspective at least, or an administrative perspective, I think, there's a lot of misunderstanding about what it actually takes to run a charity. You don't just get $100 in and, just
start a program and
somebody to do it. There's a lot of effort going in on the background.
And you kind of point out there's a lot of people that contribute. You're talking about favours. There's people that, lawyers that behind the scenes are helping you write constitutions and put together different policies, which if you if you got, even mates rates for a lawyer, you'd still be in the hole quite a bit, just to get some of those professional services. And so you're right, there's so many people that behind the scenes, giving their time, giving their efforts to obviously they believe in the cause. They believe in the impact that we're trying to have, and that we, thankfully are able to have in a community. You can't really put a dollar finger. You can't really put a dollar finger on, let's say that
dollar
again.
figure.
You can't really put a dollar figure
Yeah.
on someone's life, and the impact you can actually have when, I think of some of the families we care for that have gone through some of the worst human rights, abuses and traumatic life experiences, and in a sense, struggling just to wake up each day in a foreign land where they don't speak the language or understand the culture. They just simply don't fit in. And you're able to come alongside them and help them. You can't really, that doesn't really compute to me in like, well, that's worth $1,000. Let me tell you about one of our partners, Freedom Broadband. They're an incredible profit-for-purpose business. Freedom Broadband is your all-in-one internet and telephone service provider, whether it's for your business or your home. Now, their internet connection and speeds are simply amazing, and they're in another league when it comes to the quality of their customer service. But here's what really sets them apart. When you switch to any of their services, they'll donate $5 every month to a non-profit cause of your choice. As the founder of You Belong, an Australian-based non-profit charity, one of the greatest challenges we face is fundraising. And I think I can speak for almost all leaders in the non-profit world when I say that being able to have a residual income coming into your accounts to support your work is a dream come true. And like most non-profits, our work is dependent on the generous support of individuals and groups that share our passion to empower refugees to integrate and thrive here in Australia. But what that means is that we spend more time and energy looking for ways to raise support. And what I desperately love to be doing is spending that time and our limited resources developing and growing the many successful programs that we run. But here's where our friends at Freedom Broadband come in. You see, a few months back, I was on a 4G wireless connection at home through one of the largest phone and internet companies here in Australia. And each month I was nervous about going over our usage, getting a nasty bill at the end, and I was working on a lot of the podcasting and videos at home, and the speeds I was getting were just painfully debilitating. And I finally decided to give Freedom Broadband a call, and within 2 minutes I was on the call with Graeme completing my application, and within a week I had completely switched over to their $79 a month unlimited plan. And I can tell you firsthand, the service has been phenomenal, and I have a direct line to their customer service team whenever I have a question or need assistance. And now the studio and office where I work has switched over to Freedom Broadband as well. We're on their business plan and we haven't looked back. And how cool is this? Little by little, connection by connection, Aussie-owned and locally run Freedom Broadband is now actively supporting the great work of non-profits in communities all around Australia. Simply by switching your internet to Freedom Broadband, you can help transform the lives of those less fortunate. And that's why I love these guys. And get this, head to freedombroadband.com.au and quote Justice Matters on your application form, and they will donate $50 from the activation fee to support Justice Matters. That's going to enable us to continue this podcast and inspire the world where everyone belongs. That's freedombroadband.com.au. Say goodbye to expensive, mediocre internet with poor customer service, and hello to top-notch internet service and the good feeling of knowing you're supporting a great cause. Join Freedom Broadband today. Quote Justice Matters, and let's partner together with the internet that's helping to change the world. Or not. And so yeah.
I certainly think, whilst we sat here and talked about this administrative costs, I think charities and organisations in general have a responsibility to go through continuous improvement and being great stewards of whatever they've got as well. So, and I think You Belong certainly does that quite well. Where at the moment, we're I say we're, I'm not actually got an active role in You Belong anymore, but we're in this startup phase. We're pioneering things, and there's a lot of personal effort going in across the board, whether it be you or Rachel or Ashley, and you end up putting a lot of effort in, and the ability to just continually improve and add process to things.
Yeah,
I think it's really, really cool to see you guys grow.
Yeah, look, it happens. It's a long game. A lot of people want to see the growth overnight, and but just like anything, whether you're training for a marathon, it takes just that consistency of every day going. I mean, you were telling me how you've started this year running every single day and reading every single day, and
Healthy Habits 2021. Actually, in my team, I've been talking about sharpening the axe this year. So I kind of thought, well, if I'm talking to my team about sharpening the axe in a professional sense, maybe there's some personal things I need to sharpen the axe on as well. So I'm out every morning, getting up early and walking and running at least every day. So I'm up to this morning will be day 29.
Day 29.
Yeah.
And it's good because, it's that consistency and that continuousness of, like you're saying, continuous improvement, but also consistency and just, I'm going to be faithful. I'm just going to show up today. And when you just take a step back and you look, oh my gosh, we've got, it's upwards of 60 volunteers now in Toowoomba. We've got multiple English programs and grow trauma programs. We've now launched a children's program that called the Hero's Journey, and we still have been running events and participating in so many activities. Filled out our annual report just the other week that we had to submit to the ACNC.
Like fun.
And again, though, it's just you take a step back and like, this is incredible. And to kind of bring it back to kind of Freedom Broadband and that model, you've got this idea of it consistent every month support coming in, going towards that charity. And it goes a long way when anybody knows that I've got this monthly support coming in from people on a regular basis that have chosen or opted in to choose You Belong or any other charity as their charity of choice for that funding to come in. It just takes a weight off your shoulder. I just know every month this is at least going to come in. And it's that consistency, that continuousness. One-off donations are great, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this and you're like learning a bit more about
Look
You
in that
Belong,
wallet and you find a pineapple, send it to You Belong.
there you go. But so I mean, maybe talk a little bit about how that kind of element to the support is so important for the way you function as a profit for purpose business.
Yeah, sure. I remember when you were kind enough to do a promo video for us, when we first started, and I remember just saying, when we were talking it through, I'm like, it's really hard for a charity to commit to long-term vision on short-term cash flow. And what that means is, if, again, I'm going to talk a lot about You Belong. Obviously, it's very, very sort of personal for me, given, that's where I was in 2019 trying to help steer the ship, so to speak. For us, at the time we were talking about getting counselling service down there for refugees and all that kind of stuff. And, it's great. We might get a $5,000 donation.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, wow, maybe we could get a counsellor. But then you realise, well, that might pay a counsellor this month. But we don't know that we're going to get the money to pay them next month. And then how do you actually get someone to come and commit to just a month's worth of work? They have to, they're not knowing, in how they're going to support their family next month. Mm-hmm. It's probably going to make it a little bit difficult to do that. And that's what I mean when I say, it's really hard to fulfill a long-term vision on short-term cash flow.
Yeah.
So one of the key ideas behind Freedom is, well, look, if You Belong could get a certain amount of supporters, that would then facilitate actually paying someone each month to fulfill a key part of its vision. Then that then gives you guys the ability, or any charity really, the ability to commit to those longer term strategies to get greater impact overall and actually achieve what it is that you've set out to achieve.
Yeah. And I mean, we're highlighting You Belong, and obviously it's definitely close to us, but this is the case for any charity. And so whether you're running a charity yourself, or you're volunteering for one, or participate every now and then with the fine work of a non-profit out there. How can they actually partner with Freedom? How can they share the word and say, hey, look, this sounds great. How can they partner with you guys?
Yeah, certainly at the moment we're in the telecommunications space, so internet connections for home and business, as well as phones. So one of the big things we've done over the last 2 years is actually build all our own phone infrastructure. And, without getting into the whole nerd spiel on it, the reason why we've done that is just so that we can have control over it. So, all you have to do is ask someone how they've gone with NBN, whether it be business or personal, and you normally get that war story. The guy didn't show up. In fact, we had that, you're my...
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, you're actually my most interesting NBN connection. But, again, we want to provide that personal touch in that space as well, so that, when things do go wrong, that we can actually provide answers quickly, and rather than just go, turn the modem off and on again and hope for the best,
Yeah.
We provide services for both home users, so for families and things like that, as well as small business and right through to enterprise. I mean, we provide a phone system for a school on the Sunshine Coast, and we integrate it with their parent management system so that they can, provide better care for their kids. And long story short is, every time the phone rings, it can actually write to their database to say that the parent's called without anyone actually having to put that information in. And again, this just means that, if you've got custody issues, which is a sad reality of the world we live in now, that it can actually say that on your phone when you get a call from someone who perhaps shouldn't have access to a child, and the school would then know about it. So it's an unfortunate thing that we've set up, but again, it does help provide quality care for the kids. And again, because we've designed the system, we're able to implement things like that fairly simply. Yeah.
I mean, so it's more than just, hey, I want to get internet, kind of like my case. We were able to get it here at the studio through you guys and save a lot of money. I don't even want to tell you. We were on some business plan through some company, and it was literally costing, I think, about $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
And we have not skipped a beat, and we're on, I think, $100 business plan a month or something small like that for a business plan. That's phenomenal. So
our plans start at $69 for homes. So and that does most homes where you've got just a sort of standard usage. Right through to $99 for residential. And then for business, we can do lots of different things. We have cloud phone systems. We have, just standard phone lines as well. So if you want to bring your existing phone system to us, we can make that work. Even if you have one of those Commander things that you bought in 1972, we've got a good chance of making that work as well for you. So, and
these advanced services that you provide for larger businesses, schools, that you're able to kind of cater to their needs is, it's a lot more than even I was aware. So it's fantastic.
Look, I think, obviously being an IT person, we try and find systems and ways to sort of make life easier, and particularly in business, in 2021, we want to try and automate things that the repetitive tasks that we do all the time. So, all the business people out there who own businesses are like, I've got all that wasted opportunity or wasted time in my team where we, perhaps taking information out of one system and putting it in another, and somebody has to actually sit there and do that. And I think when you're a business person or manage a business or manage a department, even you kind of look at that and go, wow, if I could just free that person up from that, then we could invest them into doing something else. So, that's I guess what I do as well.
On a personal note, we've launched this season of Justice Matters. We've kind of switched up the colours of the logo and things like that, and gone for a real optimistic yellow, hope for the future kind of feel for this season. And I'll
take your word for it.
I wanna ask all my guests essentially, what is it that gives them hope? In a world that can seem like it's an uphill battle, fighting for justice, we see so many terrible things happening that just kind of breaks your heart. But is there anything that comes to mind when it says, look, what drives you? What gives you hope? What makes you determined to, with everything that you have, your own personal life, with your family, the way you lead them, but now also with your business to fight for justice and to make a difference in this world?
Wow, that's a big question. So I think there's probably a couple of parts to it. I think for me, where do I find hope? I think I find hope in the little wins along the way. Often, we set quite big goals for ourselves and in our families and our business. And, we might have like a 10-year plan or a 5-year, big, hairy, audacious goal that we're chasing down. But I think if you don't stop to see the wins along the way, then you quite often miss out on the moments. And obviously you brought up before, I'm walking and running, at the moment and reading books. And one of the wins along the way for me has been the bathroom scales in the morning. I lost a bit of weight over the last little 4 weeks. So I think it's important to celebrate those kind of things. So I find hope in just looking for the little wins here and there. And I guess in some ways it's inspiration as well. I'm not one for putting myself in or trying to picture myself in certain situations. So, and this will probably make you laugh. Tammy can look down her Facebook feed and just see the most horrendous stories of things happening around the world. Yeah. And I'm literally just saying, don't tell me. I literally cannot handle it. And particularly around children. So, like she will start telling me a story and, I'll start thinking about my kids and my daughter and I'm like, you just need to stop. So, why am I getting involved in social justice initiatives? It was funny. I was listening to one of your podcasts with the guy from Canada.
Randy, yeah.
Randy, that's right. On the way down today, and he said, he was kind of thought he would just fund everything and and that he would never get involved. And I'm like, that's a great idea. That's what I want to do. And then he's like, but then in the end, I just had to get involved and set something up. Yeah. And that freaks me out a little bit. But anyway, I'm still in the first part of that statement where I just go, for me, it's about, finding ways to fulfill the vision of charities and kind of do my part. So for me, I don't think I'll, touch, I don't know, I don't need to touch wood or anything. But
be careful.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever sort of start or run a charity, but
you never know what will be required of you one day.
Well, even obviously I've got lots of friends who are involved in charities and bits and pieces, and some of the stories they tell me, I just think, I just don't know that I could emotionally handle that. Particularly with suffering of people, for me is just horrendous. Like, I can't handle that. Like, even when we went to Toowoomba that first time, you invited me down, and we spoke to one gentleman who was, in Sinjar when ISIS sort of surrounded that, and they got chased up the mountain, and he was telling me he was trapped for 70 days or something.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I was just like, how do you even process that? Like, I grew up in Nowra. And don't hold that against me either. Like, if you're an Australian person, in southern New South Wales. I had a great time in Nowra. I'm so grateful for my time there. I ran a business down there, but it has its challenges as well. But when you actually start to be exposed to what's going on in the world, you're just like, wow, there's no way I could have moved to Kurdistan with my family and done what you did. But wow, so I see, my role in the whole justice thing at the moment is just to try and find ways to sort of champion the people that, are able to get involved and are actually able to deal with that. I don't know how you'd emotionally deal with that. I'd imagine some days they're just quite hard. Like, you just go home and just go like, this is just insane. I don't know if I can take this anymore. And we have those days on the business side of things as well, where I guess where you just kind of go, wow, the project didn't go the way I was expecting it, or kind of everything broke today, and you go home and go, I don't know if
it's going to work.
I'm cut out for this.
Is it working?
Yeah.
But you, again, as I think of a theme to really what we've been talking about, it's that little things. It's the little consistency of going about your business, using what's in your hand. Sometimes, you can't always think about this massive impact you're going to have one day down the track, or what you might be asked to do one day. You know,
Yeah.
you might be asked, someone might tap you on the shoulder, and
Don't
you have
do
to,
it, Tim.
and you have to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, well, I think this is the next challenge that I'm going to take on. But the next challenge is always, what are you going to do today with what you've got in your hand? And you're doing just that with Freedom Broadband. You're setting something up that is got the potential to grow in a big way, and with every single connection, fund projects around Australia that are reaching out to those less fortunate. Literally, I mean, everybody needs an internet connection. Every business needs
Certainly
an internet
in Australia,
connection.
yeah.
You know, so it's a great mission you guys have, and I know that it's going to be inspiration for other people out there thinking, oh, I wonder what's the next way I can fund, my passion project, or what's another way that we can change business so that it's at every level, holding it accountable. How are you having an impact to those around you? And it's really great to be able to talk about it with you, and I've certainly appreciated you personally along the way. Just giving what you can when you can, and it goes a long way. So thanks so much for
It's been a fun journey on this side of the table too.
Yeah,
Learned a lot. Definitely learned a lot.
Yeah. Well, look, is there any other ways listeners, viewers can find out about Freedom Broadband? What's the website they can go to? There's a special promo with Justice Matters. So if you're listening to this or watching this, if you mention Justice Matters, you also are able to have a special impact on the work that we're doing here too.
Yeah, sure. So our website is freedombroadband.com.au. So you can go there, you can see all our plans, you can sign up there, you can see the great software that we've written actually to handle all that. I was talking about automation before. We've done a bit of development there. And also we're, obviously starting to partner here with Justice Matters. So part of your connection fees and stuff like that goes to help fund this podcast and sort of get the word out about justice issues around the world, which is, I think is just great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Graeme, thanks so much for coming in. Thanks for driving all the way down. I'm sorry the Chiefs didn't win for you.
Oh, man, yeah. It's going to be a long drive home.
Yeah.
Actually, my wife texted me before and asked if my team won, and I haven't been able to bring myself to actually text her back just yet. But anyway.
Mate, just not to be. Anyways.
Next year.
You still got your Yankees and your...
Yeah, but they've been letting me down too. But anyway.
Oh, well, we won't talk about sports anymore. But hey, mate, thanks so much, man. I again, really appreciate you coming in.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thanks so much. And look, guys, check out Freedom Broadband. It's freedombroadband.com.au, and you can be part of partnering with the internet that's changing the world.
That's it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Justice Matters. I'd like to take this time to thank my audio-visual engineer, Jose Biotto, for your help in producing the show. I'd also like to shout out to the Patreon community that financially supports this podcast. Guys, thank you so much for your support. And you can join them simply by going to patreon.com/Justice Matters, where a simple donation of $5 a month, you can become a part of the Patreon community and get access to behind-the-scenes content and extras that I share just with you. And lastly, there is another really important way that you can help support the podcast, and that's simply by rating it or leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, maybe by subscribing on YouTube. Yes, we are a video podcast as well. Guys, thank you so much for listening in to this episode of Justice Matters. Please come again soon. I can't wait to share more episodes with you. I'm your host, Tim Buxton. Thanks for listening.